So this week's Parsha is Parshas Yitro, and we have the big, famous, what's the most famous part of Parshas Yitro? Right? You start reading it, the Atheres HaDibros. Ten Commandments are here. And let's focus on one of them. Page 410. 410. And this is the mitzvah that we have, Kabed Asavicha V'Esimecha, which is verse 12. It says you should honor your father and mother. Kabed Asavicha V'Esimecha, L'man Yarichon Yamecha, in order that we should have long life. And Rashi takes it literally that we'll have long life in this world. Although the Gemara speaks about it that it could be referring to the next world, because the Gemara said there was someone who didn't live so long. So it could be in terms of the real world that's where there'll be a long life. Okay, so this is the pasuk. Kabed Asavicha V'Esimecha. So I was wondering, let's say you're learning Torah with your father. So part of the mitzvah is, right, how you speak to your father also is part of kabed, kibud, right? You have kibud. Besides for the big mitzvah of kibud is, first of all, give him to eat, give him to drink, bring him in to the house, bring him out of the house, get him dressed. These are all the main principles or the main applications. But there's a lot of different nuances, right? This is what I saw brought down, that the Torah didn't give you all, right? When the Gemara says these 5 main things, these are the main things, but there's a lot of other things which one has to do. These are just the general.
You said to dress.
Help him get dressed if he needs help.
Oh, I see. If your father is elderly at the time.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
And so what happens if your mother needs help to get dressed?
Yeah, so it depends. It depends on if there's someone who can help. Depends where. Yeah, if you need to, you could. Depends on the exact case. What if it's help her put on her coat or whatever. Each case you have to see individually. Yeah, for sure. But that's part of the mitzvah to have these 5 things. Now, so let's add now. I just want to read you how I read in terms of this first part. This first thing, that this is the main. These are the main things.
So which Masechet is that?
And this is in Masechtas Kedushin. If you ever want to learn all about take out a Gemara Kedushin if you want. The Gemara in Kedushin tells us all of the laws just about of Kibbud Av Ha'im, right? Just like you'll find it in the Rambam. The Rambam has a Helchus Kibbud Av Ha'im. The place to find in the Gemara is Kedushin. By the way, if you ever want to look it up in Shulchan Aruch, you should know that the Siman in Shulchan Aruch, right, it's in Yoreh Deah. Yoreh Deah is all the laws of different things that are prohibited and allowed. But in Yoreh Deah, the Siman is Reish Mem. Reish Mem, which is 240. It's number 240, Reish Mem. But they say a sign that it's Reish Mem. If you do it, you'll be Ram. Ram is high. You'll be lofty if you do this mitzvah. But if you don't do the mitzvah, then it turns around the letters to be Mar. It will be bitter. So this is a beautiful mitzvah.
And so is this Kedushin 1 or Kedushin 2?
1 probably. Lamed Beis, Daf Lamed Beis. So the first thing is.
Sorry, Kaf Lamed Beis.
Daf Lamed Beis Amud Aleph. So the first thing is, I want to just tell you that the Rambam himself says that all these ideas of there's Mora, right? This is Kibud. So if you look on the bottom of Lamed Aleph Amud Beis, look a little back on the bottom of Lamed Aleph Amud Beis, the Gemara says what's Kibud, but there's something else called Mora. Mora is
teaching.
Mora means to teach with a hay, but here we have Yira, Mora of Ha'im. I want to tell you that it's a different pasuk, which is actually in Parshas Kedoshim. It says Ish Imai ve'aviv tira'u. which means a man and his father and his mother, Tira'u, right? Let's see the pasuk. Let's turn to Kedoshim just to see
So
this
this
pasuk.
is where one has to fear his father and be in awe of his mother or something?
Right, right. Which means in our parsha it says kabed, but if you look in Parshas Kedoshim, we could turn there. There it's a different pasuk. There, right at the beginning of Parshas Kedoshim, one of the first few psukim. Yes, page 656. There, it says a different verse. Take a look at what it says.
Your mother and father you shall revere.
Oh,
No, that's not the one I was thinking of.
so here it says, you shall fear your father and fear your mother. So there's two mitzvahs. One mitzvah is kavod, to honor them. The other mitzvah is yira, you should fear them. And what does that mean? You should treat them with the proper reverence, like you're saying. Proper reverence. What is that? So the examples that the Gemara gives on Lamed Aleph, Amud Beis, and Kedushin are: don't stand in their place, or don't sit in their chair, or don't interrupt them, or don't contradict them. Don't contradict them. That's what Rashi right over here says, that these are the classical examples. Now, and kavod means you shall help them if they have a hard time walking, all the different things that they need. Okay, so now with that in mind, right, that's the end of the pasuk. Rashi brings down all these examples. What's yira? La yistar estivaru. Soiser. What's a stira? Stira is if you contradict. Don't contradict them. And don't stand in their place or sit in their place, or don't speak up in his place. Let's say someone comes and asks your father a question, you shouldn't speak up and say, I think the answer is like this. That's not yira. It's not yira. That goes into yira. It goes into fearing him. And then there's another thing Rashi's bringing down from this Gemara on the bottom of Lamed Aleph Amud Beis. Rashi there says, and kavod is to help him in, bring him out, give him to eat, give him to drink. Two mitzvahs. Right? Good? And on that, the Meiri and the Rambam in the back of that Gemara, right? The back of the Gemara, the Rambam, not in the regular Gemaras, they bring down a Rambam. He wrote a pirush on explanation on the Gemara, and he says that these are just examples. You have to expound it and apply it to all different types of cases. These are just classical cases. Okay. And just to give you an amount, like just a geder, just like a little bit of a degree in terms of yira, of fearing. So the Rambam writes, when he writes in the Sefer HaMitzvos, when he counts up all the mitzvos, he writes that you should treat your mother and father the way you treat someone who you're scared of, that you will get punished from them. Right? Just like the way you'll treat someone who you're scared, like a king who comes in, you're scared that if you don't treat him right, you'll get punished. That's how you have to treat your parents.
Like Hashem.
Right?
Hashem, love Hashem, fear Hashem.
Just like you, right? We fear Hashem, similar, right? But you have to look at your parents with awe and reverence and be scared not to do something disrespectful.
Because
Without the right awe, you get punished. Just like if,
by not fearing them, it's like a component of not fearing Hashem. If you're not going to fear them in a way and respect them, then you're also probably not fearing Hashem also at the same time. Because it's a big mitzvah.
That's true.
To violate.
It is right. It's one of the 10 commandments. It's a big mitzvah. You have to listen to them. That's for sure. And that's not listening to Hashem if you don't listen to them. Okay, so that's the Sefer. The Rambam here is saying how much. That's how scared a person should be scared. Not to. He should treat his parents with awe, not just flippantly. Just like just tell them like oh, I think like this or that. A person has to be in awe the way they were in the older generations. In those olden days, person would be scared to.
In reference to how much, I don't know who it was that was quoted as saying, I might have misquoted him, that he said it's easier than to fulfill this mitzvah. It's easier, or it can only be done. I don't want to word it wrong. If you don't have parents, like it's too hard to fulfill the mitzvah.
Well, I don't know if I would say it like that, but Esav did this mitzvah amazingly. Rabbi Gamliel said that if he would be, he didn't even reach the heels of Esav, because Esav, he said Esav, when he went to serve his father, he would put on special clothes. He had the big day, hachamudos. He would put on special clothes. So he said, even though he was going to serve his father and he wasn't, maybe he had to cook for his father and clean, he put on special clothes. And when I serve my father, I put on my not so nice clothes because I'm going to be working. So he said, Rabbi Gamliel said, I don't even come up to the heels of Esav in terms of kibbut avei.
There was one, I don't know again who it was, but he said that he used to bend down for his mother to step on his back to get on her bed, so she would get on her bed, and he would put his hands out on her feet so she could walk or something. I don't know who.
You want to hear that Gemara? I'll read you. It's also in Kedushin. I'll read you that Gemara. That's also a fascinating Gemara.
No, I don't want to take you off your.
I don't mind if you want to hear that Gemara.
Place. You go with your schedule.
Now, so that's what Mora is, and that's what Kavod is. Now, let's talk about this mitzvah of not contradicting your father. So you can't contradict him. You can't tell him he's wrong. So the question here is, let's say you're learning Torah with your father. What should you do if you're learning Torah? And you get up to, you have an argument with him. Are you allowed to have an argument with him? Right? How could you ever have an argument? How could you learn Torah? You're going to tell him, I think you're wrong. How could you argue with your father? Isn't that Yira? Ish, Imo, Ve'aviv? Tira'u. This is the big question here that we have to understand first. So, in terms of this...
Is it a yes or no answer? Tell us that much.
No, well, there's one thing here that first of all, there's a Gemara in Kedushin, a different Gemara in Kedushin, that says that you have a mitzvah to learn with your father. The Gemara says, right, and you could check up this Gemara. The Gemara is a fascinating Gemara about, it says a pasuk, and it says that praises the man who fills up maybe a pill or something, and who is he? Ki yedabru es oyevim bishar. The Gemara is on Daf Lamed Amud Beis. It says Ki yedabru oyevim bishar. Oyev, what's an oyev? Oyev, Haman was. Ohev is to love. Oyev is something that Haman was called. Ish, Tsar, ve'oyev. Right? When Esther told Achashverosh that there's someone who's trying to harm the Jews, she said, there's a man, he's a Ish, Tsar, ve'oyev. So Achashverosh said, who is it? So he said, Haman Araza. So what did she call him? What type of names did she call him? Ish, Tsar, ve'oyev. Right? You ready for the Megillah, Irving?
I don't know.
We better prepare the Megillah then, because Purim's coming up in a few weeks.
Yeah.
A little bit longer.
What?
A little bit longer.
What do we got? We got less than 4 weeks. No, 4 weeks, exactly. Exactly 4 weeks. So the answer is, an oyev, we say it also in Shachris, that we say when, in Ezras, when we say about the splitting of the sea.
What a March date.
So I'll tell you what oyev is. Oyev is an enemy. So it says here that a person praises a man if he talks with his enemies in the gate. What does it mean? His enemies are in the gate. So the Gemara says that means even a father and a son, or a Rabbi and his student, who are working in Torah in one shar, in one gate, they're in one house, and nasu oyavim zeh, they become enemies. At that time they're enemies, and they don't leave there until they become ohev. Ohev means until they love each other. So they start out as enemies, but they leave as being friends. Why are they enemies? So Rashi says, because they're asking each other questions, and they're and they're not just listening, just not just accepting any answer. They ask very strong, and they only take a yes if it's clear, if they understand what it is.
Situation.
What?
Familiar situation.
Yeah.
We will be dealing with it for quite a few days right after Pesach.
With what?
With this situation.
What? With what? Which part?
The one you just explained.
Yeah.
24,000
Oh,
for others.
right.
Was exactly the same situation. They didn't listen to each other.
Yeah, 1 second, hold on. But 1 second. But here I'm reading a Gemara. This Gemara, right, is in Kedushin on Daf Lamed Amud Beis. Listen how the Gemara states. Let me read it inside, because the Gemara here is saying an interesting twist on it. Here the Gemara is saying something good. The Gemara is saying a good idea. It says, Ashri HaGever, praised is the man who fills up the bag of arrows. What does that mean? He has a lot of students, and lo yevaishu, and they're not embarrassed. Why? Ki yedavru es oyavim b'shar, because they are yedavru, they are speaking and arguing in the gate. And here it's talking about arguing in Torah. And since they're arguing in Torah and they become enemies in Torah, so then it's good, because it says, praised is he. Praised is he. Even a father and a son, or a student and a Rebbe, who are working in Torah and they're asking each other questions, they become enemies. They become enemies with each other. So this is a good thing. Praise is that man. So the Gemara says that's in the beginning, but in the end they love each other. They become a ohev in the end, because in the end they come out loving each other. But what do you see? You see that when they're in the beginning, then they're fighting. That doesn't mean literally fighting. It means fighting in verbal battles, right? We had a Gemara share this past week upstairs, and there was a lot of fighting going on. But that's the idea, to get into the Torah and not to just accept whatever the other person says. Rashi's words are, and once they ask, and they don't just accept right away. They're saying, prove it. You got to prove it. So the question is, based on that, how are they allowed to do that? How can a son argue with his father? Is that permitted? Isn't that a problem of contradicting your father? Yira, you can't contradict him?
You're talking when they're studying Torah together?
Yes.
I would say it would be praiseworthy for both of them.
So is it not a problem of Yira? Is it a problem of contradicting him? Or, right, because you're not allowed, right? You're not supposed to contradict him, right? I'll give you the example where the Gemara says. The Gemara speaks out different things, right? You can't contradict him. So on this, to answer this question, so I'll tell you two answers that I have on this question. One answer is, like Irving is saying,
Lishma, for its purpose, you have to do this back and forth.
I would say it is not showing Yira, but I know that generally when it comes to learning Torah, many exceptions are allowed. Like you aren't allowed to open up a business close to another person who has the same business, but you are allowed to have shuls that are sort of next door each other. So I would say that for Torah it is allowed, but
so let's see how we explain it. How that works.
Isn't there a concept that the Rebbe has a student, and the student challenges the Rebbe that the Rebbe is uplifted by his student. The same thing of a father of a son. He's not jealous of his son if his son excels.
No, that's true. No, there's one idea that the Rebbe and a father wants to see his son become bigger than him. And he won't become jealous if his son becomes bigger than him. But the question here is, when they're talking together and they're learning together, why is the son allowed to argue with the father? Right?
He's trying to try out. He's trying to understand. If he doesn't, question and push the envelope, how is he going to fully, pry out all the nuggets of knowledge from his father?
If he doesn't,
by challenging him on,
if he doesn't challenge him
in a respectful way, for the sake of Shemayim.
Yes, I mean, I actually observed maybe a few months ago where a father and son were actually learning, and I think the son knew more than his father because I think he went to a Jewish education and maybe his father didn't, and they were having a sort of bit of a dispute about what they were learning, and I sort of saw this and I thought, well, the son shouldn't actually be doing that. So I don't know, it was only my own personal feeling. I felt almost, I guess, sorry for the father.
No, okay. So,
good.
So I'm going to show you how the Shulchan Aruch, which is the ruling that we have, the code of Jewish ruling that we have, how he explains it. So the way it goes like this. There's two ideas here. The first idea is that since that's the way to learn Torah, like you're saying, to ask and answer, that's part of when you're trying to get to understand, right? You're going through the back and forth, then that's allowed because that's the way to learn Torah, to ask, to answer, and therefore, and that becomes clearer. That's how you actually become clear in the Gemara, in any part of Torah, is when you ask. So therefore, that is the Father's will. You could say like that type of way of saying it, that the Father Himself wants you to do that. He wants you to fight. That's not a problem of Yira, of fearing Him, because that's part of His will. That's we want to learn Torah. That's how you learn Torah. But but the Gemara that says you can't contradict Him, that could be where He says something else. He says anything else. He says something which is just, He says that I think there's going to be traffic, and you say no, there's not going to be traffic. That's contradicting Him. Or if, for example, it could be, let's say, He makes a decision, you shouldn't go against His decision. That could be in terms of such a thing. Or even, let's say, He makes a ruling. If He makes a ruling, the truth is already any ruling is already Torah. So then you have to know how you're coming to ask. In terms of ruling, that would get back to maybe Torah. It depends if you're saying maybe I have a proof that maybe we shouldn't do like that. Then already that would be different. But in terms of when you're learning Torah, since that's the way to learn Torah, the Father Himself wants you to be like that. The Father Himself wants you to get into it. That's not a problem of Yira. That's one idea that's brought down from Reb Steinman.
And so if your father makes a decision that you think is maybe not a wise one, are you allowed to try and to persuade him sort of by giving him valid reasons why he should?
In Torah, is it a question in Torah or not Torah?
It isn't Torah. No.
Oh, not Torah. So I want to just tell you now, we'll get back to this, but I want to tell you a second thing. The next idea is, let's say you see your father doing something wrong. The Gemara here speaks about it in Kiddushin. Let's say a person sees his father doing something wrong. The Gemara has a few different cases. So what should you do? What should you do? So it's very interesting, right? What would you say, Irving? You hear the case, you hear the question.
And he is doing something wrong in the Torah?
Yes, something against the Torah. So the Gemara, I'll read you how the Gemara says it on Daf Lamed Beis. The Gemara states that there was actually a student and a father that were the father said something, and the student said, Rabbi Yehuda was the student. Rabbi Yehuda said, you shouldn't learn like this. Don't learn the case like this. So that Shmuel said to him, you're not supposed to say that to your father. You shouldn't say, don't learn like this, right? Which means, or you should change the girsa or change the text. You shouldn't tell him like that, because it says that if someone he sees his father transgressing the Torah, he shouldn't say, he should not say the words, Abba avarta al divrei Torah. He should not say, Abba, you are transgressing the Torah. And Rashi explains, because when you say it like that, and you're telling him that you made a mistake, so it's not kavod, it's not the right, it's not honorable. Rather, what, right? That's the you have to say it to him the right way. That's not the right way to just say it like avarta al divrei Torah. You were over, you transgressed the Torah. It's not kavod. It's not kavod, and there would be a problem of kavod. Kavidas avicha. Rather, you should tell him, Abba, kach kosuv b'Torah. This is what's written in the Torah. According to Rashi, Rashi reads it like this: that let's say the father is turns on a light on Shabbos, so you should say, Abba says in the Torah that you're not supposed to do work on Shabbos. You're not supposed to do work. And the father, Rashi explains, the father will understand on his own.
See, yeah, because when he says that's wrong, he's giving his opinion, the son. But when he says the Torah says, the argument is really the Torah and the father. The son is like standing on the other side. When he says the Torah says this,
but when he would come in the beginning, he's coming and saying, Father, you're not supposed to do that. That's against the Torah. He shouldn't say that either. He shouldn't say, Father, you're not allowed to turn on the light. The Torah says you're not allowed to turn on the light. You're not allowed. If he tells him you're not allowed to turn on the light because the Torah says don't do malacha.
He's quoting the pasuk where he says you can't. You're doing it against the Torah as opposed to the Torah says. Okay, so what's okay?
Let me think about it. No, so the way Rashi says it is you're not supposed to say don't do this or you're doing something against the Torah. You should give him a hint. You should say, it says in the Torah that you're not supposed to do malacha, you're not supposed to do work. And if he doesn't get the hint, you say, and the Shulchan Aruch says that work is to turn on a light. You're not. That's what the Torah says. I'm just quoting to you a verse, right? Now, it's a hint. You're giving him a hint, which means it's like it's very similar to when someone needs to get a guy to let's say the air conditioning is on in his house and it's 25 degrees outside, so everyone can get sick. So one's allowed to, let's say, call a guy. But let's say a case where that's a question, so you do a remes. You're supposed to hint to the guy. So you're supposed to hint. You tell the guy, it's cold in our house, right? You're not supposed to tell the guy, go turn on my light. It depends on each case, but in certain cases you're supposed to give him a hint. So the hint is, or my my light is on, and we can't fall asleep. And he's supposed to take the hint and say, oh, that means you want me to come help you turn it off. I'll come turn it off. So to here, you're not right. We're talking kibbud av v'aim. If someone sees his father doing something wrong, so what should he tell him? Right? He sees him doing something wrong. Let's say the father, doesn't realize.
What if the son sees the father doing it, but the father knows there's a chola inside that he's allowed to do it for?
Oh, so that's fine.
So how then the son would be saying a statement saying you're not allowed to, but he doesn't?
No. So then the father will respond and tell him. Right? So the cases where someone sees their father, that let's say a case of borer, right? Eating on Shabbos, you can't pick the bad from the good. So let's say the son sees the father with the chicken on the table, and he sees the father pulling the bone away from the chicken. You have to do it a certain way to separate the bad. It has to be the good from the bad, right? It has to be, you take the good from the bad. You can't take the bad from the good. That's the way of doing borer, doing separating. So let's say the son sees the father doing that borer on Shabbos. So the son should not say, Father, you're not allowed to do that. That's borer. Shouldn't say that. What should he say?
The Torah says that we take the good from the bad.
Right. It says in the Torah that you shouldn't do malacha, and it says in the Shulchan Aruch that you shouldn't do borer. You shouldn't separate the bad from the good. that one should not separate, and you're just telling him what it says in the Torah. But he will understand by himself. Rashi says, Behu sheyavin me'atzmai. He should understand. He'll pick up the hint on his own. But you're not reprimanding him or telling him what to do. You're just telling him, this is what the Torah says. And therefore then it won't be that you're giving him pain and not honoring him by telling him straight out, you're making a mistake. Right? If you tell him just flat out, you're doing something wrong, that's not kavod. That's tsar, that's causing him pain. You're not allowed to cause him pain. So this is what Rashi says. You should say, Kach kasuv batorah. That's what it says in the Torah. This is what it says in the Torah. Mikra kasuv batorah. It's a pasuk in the Torah that says, the pasuk says the following, and the father will pick up the hint on his own. That's what Rashi says. That's how Rashi reads the Gemara. On the other hand, I'll tell you an interesting thing. We'll have to see how the Shulchan Aruch rules. But you know what the Rambam? You know how the Rambam reads this Gemara? The Rambam reads the following. The Rambam says, if someone sees his father doing something wrong, so it says, Lo yomar lo. He shouldn't tell his father of vartal divrei Torah. He shouldn't say, you are transgressing the Torah. Ela yomar lo. He should tell him, Abba, katuv b'Torah. It says in the Torah, kach v'kach. Katuv b'Torah, kach v'kach. Ki'ilu hu shoyel mimenu. You have to make it like a question. It shouldn't be like you're giving him a warning and you're telling him that he's doing something wrong. It should say, Abba, are you allowed to take away the chicken, the bone from the chicken? What's the law of borer on Shabbos? And the father knows that he just forgot, or he made a mistake. So this is a way of reminding him by asking him a question, right? Sometimes an innocent question, you could lead him back and you'll show him the right way. Isn't it Shabbos? And what's the halacha? Is it, does it say in the Torah about the chicken and the bone? How do you take off bar? And you ask him. The Rambam learns that's like a question. You're supposed to ask him a question. You're not supposed to do it as a statement, as a hint. He argues with Rashi on the way how one's supposed to tell the father.
Watermelon is a big one.
Yeah, the what?
Watermelon. How are you supposed to eat watermelon?
Oh, right. He sees his father. Father, I want a piece. Before I eat the piece, how do I be careful from doing borer? Right? So that would be a case. That's how the Rambam reads it. You should say, "Kasuv b'Torah kach v'kach." Or is there a problem of borer over here? Is it saying the Torah this and this? That's how the Rambam learns up this idea. So it's a big argument here, and let's see how they rule in terms of this whole idea. Let me just see anything here. Okay, so in terms of the, we're going to have to see the Shulchan Aruch. But let me read you how they say it over here. So according to we have the two ways how to read the Gemara. According to Rashi, you should say, it depends how you read this Gemara. That the son should say to the father, Mikra Kosav B'Torah Kach. According to Rashi, it's Mikra Kosav B'Torah. It says in the Torah that one should not do borer. Hint. That's how Rashi reads it. And therefore, according to the way you're doing it, it's not so simple. Now, on the other hand, we have the Rambam. The Rambam saying it's a question. Now, I want to read you how the Shulchan Aruch rules in terms of this, just to see. It's a little bit interesting how he rules. So it's in Siman Reish Mem, and the way to find it, right? You see on the side of the Gemara, it will bring down a little test that tells you to go in Shulchan Aruch Reish Mem Yod Aleph. So here he rules. He shouldn't say you have transgressed the Torah. He should say, Abba Kosav B'Torah Kach V'Kach Ki'ilu Hu Shoel Mimenu. Yeah. It's like you're asking him. He brings down the words of the Rambam, and then he says, V'hu yavin me'atzma, he brings down the words of Rashi also. But the point is, v'lo yisbayish. The point is now the father won't be embarrassed because you're not telling him straight out that you did something wrong. Because if you would tell him straight out, that would be embarrassing. So therefore, if he's saying something over wrong, he shouldn't tell him, you're saying it wrong, don't read it like that, it's the wrong way. He should say, isn't it written differently? Isn't it written with a different word, a different letter? That's how the Shulchan Aruch rules and brings it down. So, from what you see from all this, is that even when one is learning Torah, so in terms of the ruling, if you see that your father's doing something wrong, there's a way to say it. There's a way how to say it the nice way. It has to be done in this way. But
does that apply to a student and his Rabbi too? Same way?
That's interesting. Do they apply this? Because there is also a din of honoring your Rebbe. So it could be. That's an interesting question. We have to check up to see if they speak about it.
You're talking about item things that are more so like cut and dry. But there are situations that are more blind. I'll give you an example. Okay? It's a very fascinating story. Went to a customer of mine. He was a goy. Okay? And what happened is that he was invited to go to a wedding. Okay? And at the wedding, he extended his hand to the Kala. Okay? The Kala didn't extend the hand to her. Okay? He was embarrassed. He went over back. He didn't say anything. He goes back to who invited him, and he said to him, listen, did I do something wrong? So he said, he didn't want to get into it. He said, you know what, Frank, forget about it. She's just, I don't want to get into it. Now I'm asking you, you could say, technically speaking, the person's right not to extend the hand. Technically. However, the outcome was so humiliating to the guy that it is not right. So when you talk about things that are like more halacha, like separate border, talking about more of a blind situation like that. So how would you answer? Like here you got the Rebbe, or you got the father, and you got the son. Usually what happens is the father, who has more experience than the son in life, will tell you, like if it would be my son, my son, she would that, whatever. Someone extends your hand, you shake the hand, close your mouth. A woman, whatever, don't embarrass somebody. I don't care what anybody says. Now you could ask her that. You can go to another one, but that means they'll come to you. You'll say, I wouldn't do it. What would you do?
Here's a question.
Watson, what would you do?
Yes, I've also heard that. Like, for example, I've heard somebody.
I want to just say, because it would be interesting to hear what you want to do, because the age difference.
I think I've heard Rabbi Ross.
The age difference and where we're coming from.
In public.
What would you do? You're at a wedding.
Shake it.
You're at a wedding.
Embarrass her.
A boy is invited to the chassan. Doesn't know anything. He said, "Hi, how are you?"
So,
and there was also another story which is actually, it perhaps illustrates yours. I hope that I've got it right, but I think this guy told me that the temple was destroyed because of the fact that they wouldn't bend the rules because of an imperfect sacrifice.
Right.
And just because of that, just because they, in other words, because they followed the rule book perfectly, the temple was destroyed. I think I've got it right.
right.
So
Exactly
what I'm trying to bring out, it's a very interesting thing, because
So what do you want to say with that? So you're saying the same idea?
Yes.
we are going,
Sometimes
and I want to bring out a very important point, because I've already lived most of my life, you know what I mean? But I noticed that as the next generation comes, they are making the same mistake there's the letter of the law, like for example, like what this gentleman just said. Okay. Now you're right.
If I've got it right.
You have to know each case.
You can't judge that generation, because that generation was so close in terms of their betochen and understanding that you have to, and they were much closer to Hashem, that I would say that at that time, we can't understand that thinking. You know what I mean? Because they thought this whole thing out. They were much smarter than we are. Okay? But I'm talking about this situation. This is more of a common denominator today, because I could see in your eyes, Rabbi Wasserman, I could see in Goldwasser, I could see already that you tend to go to the far right.
Well,
I can see it.
There's different ways.
Right? Look at it. I can see it. He doesn't want to say it.
There are different ways.
He would do his utmost to avoid the situation, of course.
Well, that's the first thing. You could try to avoid it.
Okay, I'll put you in his shoes. I'll get a different situation. I'll put it to you that way, and it's a true story. It happened actually to me in a country called Bulgaria, and I'm from Russia. Usually, sometimes when we ask somebody something, right, they say yes, they usually move their head like that, right? That's typical, okay? So I was working in Bulgaria back in socialist times, and I came to somebody, and it was a very important thing, and he was a big boss, and I asked him something in a group of people, and he says like that, and I understood it's no. And it was so embarrassed to me that I'd done it so wrongfully, that something I asked him, that I thought that when I come back to Russia, they're going to punish me so badly. Okay? You know what I didn't know? That this in Bulgarian means yes. So exactly the same situation. You don't know the rules. I was embarrassed, but you have to know the rules. What should I do? Like in this situation, what should I do?
This means yes in Bulgarian?
Yes means yes in Bulgarian, and that means no in Bulgarian. Completely opposite to Russian.
Wow.
Completely opposite. I never knew that until somebody later on explained to me. I was so embarrassed. I thought I will be fired. I will be removed from whatever the communist titles I had and so on, because it was like a big project.
Wow.
Russia helping Bulgaria, and I said, I've done it and I hope you like it. And he's shaking his head like that.
Wow.
So it means no. And he's big party leader and everything, and big people. Later on, everybody coming and congratulating me. But I'm like, what's going on? He didn't like it.
Wow.
And they explained to me that the meaning is different, but I was in exactly the same situation. You don't know the rules. So here's the rules, where a cow is not allowed to shake the hand, no matter what. Like I have a situation with my cousin's wife. She knows now. Every time she comes, she put out the hand, and I'm stepping back and saying, I'm sorry. I'm not allowed. And she unfortunately, my cousin is a goy, and she's a goy as well.
So the rules are not so strong with for a goy.
It's really a fault of the person who, I guess, either invite him or the one who didn't want to answer and get into it. The answer is very simple. I'm sorry, in our rules, like I was in a country, here's, religion in another country. I was in a country. I was actually in a country. So imagine if you live, if that's a rule of the country.
So based on the saying, if you say something nice and polite, then anyone will understand.
Right.
If you explain, thank you, but the Jewish law is that the men don't shake the lady's hand, the man will understand, and as Pesach is saying, that he'll be thankful that now he knows for the next wedding that he goes to that he won't shake out his hand.
I guess you could say, thank you for wanting to shake my hand, but Jewish law doesn't permit me to do so, but I still appreciate your gesture.
Right.
Yeah,
Which means,
good.
I'm saying, not that a person should just like look at the hand and like make them feel embarrassed. That's not right. But you say, thank you very much for the gesture. The Jewish law doesn't permit this, and then, but 98% of the time, they will understand. They'll be thankful for you for helping, informing them, explaining it, and now they'll be informed and know for the future, and they won't even be embarrassed. They'll be thankful to you.
And I had that situation. That's actually how I learned. I was just becoming observant, and one of the organizations, Jewish organization who help people to find job, was Kesher Employment. And I was called by them and interviewed by the lady, and just becoming observant, I don't know all the rules, it was like, I don't know, I just started wearing kippah and everything. And after being interviewed, I'm leaving, and like I done it all the time, I'm extending my hand.
Right.
And she's stepping back and saying, I'm sorry, I'm not allowed. And that was about it. After that, I called my Rabbi and asked, which was actually your father-in-law.
Oh. So,
And I'm like, what's going on? The Rabbi at the time, like, so he explained.
okay, so if you explain anything, most of the time, right, it won't be so embarrassing, and they'll be thankful. We could try it out, right? See Irving, think about it. But this is the idea. So what we're coming out with so far is two ideas. Number one is how to say it, right? We see here, right? We see here how to say it makes a big difference. You could say to your father, what are you doing? This is against the Torah. Or you could say, right, Kach kosav b'Torah. This is what it says in the Torah. It says in the Parsha, right, that one shouldn't do work on Shabbos. Or you could even say, like the Rambam, you say it in a question. Does it say in the Torah about, right, does it not say that about borer, right? Is this a problem of borer? You can ask it. So the way you say it could have a big impact. So that's the idea in terms of how to say it. And in terms of if someone's arguing in Torah with their father, so here we're seeing from the Shulchan Aruch, from the case of the Gemara, that one is allowed to argue in Torah. So the first idea is because that's what your father wants. That's the way to learn Torah. The way to learn is to ask and answer, not just to sit and agree. But in terms of the actual halacha, in the end of the day, so if you see your father doing something and you think it's wrong, then you have to speak up in the right way, in the respectable way, and say, doesn't it say in the Torah this and this? That would be the first idea, how to explain that. Now, in terms of the Rabbi, you're asking about the Rebbe. In terms of the Rebbe, it would be probably the same thing, because the rule is in the Shulchan Aruch, it says here that one has to honor their Rebbe even more than their father.
Really?
Even more than their father. As the it's right after Hilchos Kibbutz Avim.
You can't publicly teach your Rebbe, so you cannot, especially in the public, say to your Rebbe, Torah said that way and you're doing it this way. And we have an example with Shmuel.
Yeah, so here it says, Chayiv Adam Bekaved Rabbi, one is obligated to honor their Rebbe, V'yirasai, and he also has to do Yir, he has to fear his Rebbe, Yoiser. Yoter means more than his father. So therefore, he brings down to be careful. How do you? So he says over there, how do you? You has to be careful how to say it. Shouldn't say a ruling in front of his Rebbe. So that would be the answer to your question over there.